describe my life. When I come to an organization like this, basically nobody attacks me. So it's almost like I have to say, oh God, what's this? Most places I go, people attack me. But nobody here has mentioned the one thing I'm most attacked for in the United States currently. Well, aside from MAT, that's a whole new thing. In America, everybody's totally into trauma therapy, which is you get traumatized when you're young and it rearranges your brain, then you're a drug addict for. And to me, and the man most associated with that is a man named Gabor Mate. And so if you kind of search in Google for Gabor Mate, my name comes up next because, and Gabor Mate is giant. Everybody loves Gabor Mate. He's got that sexy Austrian accent, Everybody loves him. Good-looking guy, And everybody likes trauma therapy, but all the data show. There's no data that doesn't show. Sitting around and talking about your trauma doesn't work to get people better. That doesn't happen. All the data show that forward planning, how am I going to give coping skills, purpose, all the same stuff works for everybody. I mean, you can't, if somebody's been raped, you can't ignore it, but, there's no spending all your time talking about the rape and things getting better. That's just doesn't happen. So in the United States, any place I'll go, so people will go, what do you think about trauma therapy? Or what's your argument with Gabor Mate, So, but nobody here says that. Everybody in America says that.
What's your argument with Gabor Mate?
Hey, we all love Gabor. Now you mention it.
It's going so well.
You just lost the room, buddy.
You're a Gabor Mate fan? I don't believe it.
No, I'm kind of have to. But
I know. You're playing with me. But I can tell you. Well, so I say it doesn't work. Well, I have a personal story about Gabor Mate, and sometimes my life just plays out like a movie if I ever get famous enough. So I had lunch with Gabor Mate in Vancouver, and people thought, well, they'll get together because we both kind of agree. We're both not like you're genetically programmed to be addicted. That we kind of agree on. We have sort of a similar political orientation. And so, at some point he starts, getting into me and all, and then he does this trick he does, which he does at every workshop. That's how I met Zach Rose, the guy I'm writing the book with, went to a workshop. He does the same thing every time. He goes, is there anybody here who's had an addiction who doesn't think that they were traumatized? And some poor idiot raises his hand. Gabor Mate's not going to let you say, oh, I had a happy childhood, the guy says. And then, he'll keep going and he'll go, well, how'd you get along in school? And he said, I got along pretty well. I wasn't the most popular kid. And then, he'll go, well, did you ever have any negative incidents? And he said, sure. And then, he'll go, did you tell your parents? You can't, you're not going to win. Gabor Mate up at the front of the class and you being some imbecile in the room, he's going to cut you down. And that, Zach sort of was a Gabor Mate fan. He went and he said, well, this can't be therapy to convince people that they had a trauma, and they came and they didn't used to think they had a trauma before they got there. So when I had brunch with Gabor Mate, he actually said to me, I sense that you have a deep-seated personal pain that you're not revealing. He's going to pull Gabor Mate on me. I say, well, you're kidding me, right? I know this trick, you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. So I don't think he's an authentic human being. That's what I have against Gabor Mate.
So does he believe everybody or just addicts have had trauma?
Well, the line he uses in workshops is there anybody who feels they've had a significant addiction or mental health problem
Okay.
who feels that they weren't traumatized?
Okay.
And then he'll work them, and then the audience applauds. It's like
You don't
the
question-
Roman, it's like the gladiators. You know what I mean? They're watching this poor schmuck be cut up,
Yeah.
and I guess they're thinking, thank God that idiot's not me. You know what I
I
mean?
suppose what it is we like to see a cause. We don't like to think something just happened. It just, we like to see, you know,
There's a reason for
we've
it.
been kind of in, yeah, cause and effect that,
But there can be
This is
cause.
why.
Your argument is the therapy doesn't work. You know, the person may have had a trauma,
Right.
but it's sitting around talking about it isn't going to help it.
Right. It's not an effective therapy, and he doesn't even have an effective therapy. He doesn't say, oh, now we know you have a trauma, we do X. He
Yeah.
doesn't have any therapy. He said, well, now you know we have a trauma. Good. So now we've spoken about that. So everybody in America, even Adama says well-addressed traumas. Well, okay. But of course, one big issue is, well, is this trauma happening now? That's a whole different thing. Are you in a traumatic situation now? Then you're obligated to do something about it. You know, if you're getting raped or beaten now, but that's not, you know.
The
When I was
question
a
is,
child.
the question is then, why is everybody not addicted?
We're
Right.
all traumatized.
It's hard, you can't really find a human being
That hasn't something
that
to do
hasn't
with
had
trauma.
something that couldn't be, had a trauma. And, you know,
Being
you can
born
make the
is very
argument
traumatic.
that people do the best. People do the best. People do the best when they. I hate to say this. It sounds. And I say people do the best when they ignore their traumas. I like people. You know, after a while, they explain to you, oh. You know, I was brought up in Russia and I had to escape when I was 6 or something like that. You know, geez, I never knew that. And they go, you know, I don't talk about it. You know, it's whatever. That happened. What am I going to do? I got to live a life now. I like people like that.
Victor Frankl.
But what if you have a client that is saying that the trauma that impacted them when they were 6 or 7 is causing them to drink or use drugs or gamble?
How
or,
do you handle that?
Well, I talk about, like, at the moment, the drink, the drugs, or gambling. And then I say, well, I'm going to refer you on to somebody else for the trauma because I can't deal with that. I wasn't present in that moment with you to talk about how you
Well, how would
felt.
you handle
But I
that
allow them to
in
talk about it.
motivational interviewing? They have those videos of motivational interviewing. So you interview a guy and he goes, you know, I smoke, but I smoke because I have a very tense job. And then he starts explaining to you how he can't stop smoking. So then the motivational interviewer, these Bill Miller tapes goes, so then you say, oh, so you won't be able to quit smoking. Then usually the guy says, well, I didn't say that. Then you go, oh, sorry. I thought that's what you were saying to me.
Yeah.
So what I wouldn't give up on a client like that, I say, so you're telling me you'll never be able to give up drugs?
Well, that's what we do say. We say, in what way can we help, and separate the things? Like, do you feel that you need to speak to somebody about the trauma from before? I can help you work on this piece, and someone else can help you work on this piece.
How
Or I
would you
can
do with
help
that,
you.
Liam? If somebody, a client says, I can't give up drugs because of this trauma, what do you say?
Like Maria's just said, look, I'm not a qualified counsellor, and I make that very clear when I'm interacting with anybody. So to me, on the one hand, look, so I can't really safely kind of like help them with that traumatic experience, other than to tell them that that okay, it's, we can empathise with them and say that that's awful, but I'm interested in how you've got this far. Actually, how come you're not drinking more? How come you're not doing?
Oh, you're getting therapeutic. You say you're not a therapist, but those are very therapeutic techniques. You're going, oh, if trauma is your basic problem, I'm not the right person to help you. But haven't you already made some progress yourself so far?
No, for me, it's a strength-based and solution-focused.
That was very important in what Pauline said. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we have to recognise that, and we talked about this, but when I'm training with Sean Foy and with the Learning Curve Institute, we do this lovely exercise, and I think you do something similar. about for people who don't get that actually really chaotic drug users and drinkers still have a set of strengths. And we tee it up like on a flip chart like that, and we get the people in the group to imagine that we have to recruit an active, chaotic drug user right now. So we need to put an ad in the local paper. We need to write up the person spec here. So everything has to be positively phrased, no more than the jobs that we've all applied for. So what are those strengths that the person has? So they have to be a good timekeeper, need to have good local knowledge,
Have to
Right.
be quick on your feet.
all of those things, yeah, good legal understanding, stuff like that, you know, all those kind of things.
And then you say to them, you know, somebody with these traits, they could actually get a real job, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So strength-based is the most important thing, and of course trauma is not a strength, you know, trauma therapy is not a strength-based approach. It's like, here's why you're screwed up forever. But there are a lot of techniques where you can reverse that. I like the one he said, including pointing out, well, you're doing pretty well for a person with trauma, aren't you? How did you get this far?
Well, but I suppose my question is, if someone keeps bringing up that this is, and you're not getting past it, like, are you essentially buying in to go back to the past with them by sending them then to therapy or to a counsellor or whatever, it might be a therapist, for that piece that they're saying is holding them back and holding them in their addiction, and they can't see past it because this is
Well,
what's
you always
going
have to give a person a choice and say, well, look, I don't know if I'm a good person to talk to you about your trauma. If you want to do that, but let's just talk anyhow as best we can. You're here for whatever, half hour. Let's just talk and see if we can make any progress. How do you deal with that, Colin?
You can't stop someone from
What
telling
you asked that damn Gabor Mate question? What the hell are you doing there? With the Mona Lisa smile.
I think it probably depends on what they're there for. So I think if the addiction is what they're coming for help with, I think, you know, the point is to empathise with the experience that they're describing to you and to be present with them in that, but also then to start to, you know, as you were saying, to elicit.
So let me just, so a good thing to do is to outline what it is they're trying to deal with, and you can say, well, so maybe the trauma is bad for something, but maybe we can deal with this X thing that you're come to me for, no matter.
Yeah, so you would acknowledge it, and I would presume that you would say, so how is that impacting on you today? You know, say in your situation as in, whether it be homeless services, how is that impacting on your homelessness? How is that blocking you with your homelessness? So you're kind of keeping it in a certain direction that you're familiar with, that you're not going off into full-on counselling with the person.
Well, I've been inclined to listen to what the person has said, if there's so much want to talk about it. You know, that would be my opinion.